one of you guys whether it was okay to leave feedback that includes spoilers for the spin-offs. And that made me wonder if we should be careful of that for ourselves. I put a poll up on Facebook whether people wanted us to include
of course,
spoilers.
yeah.
And the vast majority said go ahead, but a few said please don't because they're in places where they haven't been able to see it. And so what I propose, and this is the first time I'm saying this to Lucy, is that we are okay with minor things, but no like twists or big plot things. That if we have anything like that, we could keep it to the end and talk about
I think that's
it with
fair.
a warning. Yeah.
Yep. I might stumble this first time because I hadn't thought about it in those terms, but I think we should be okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you, if we need to adjust on the fly, because I do, even for this podcast, have some stuff that I put to the end, so we could just adjust that on the fly if we need be. But I think
amazing.
So just so you guys know, that's what we're going to do, which means that we will be talking about some small details, and I think that's a good compromise. If you feel strongly against that, let me know. But we're trying to, toe the line here so we don't restrict our conversation too much, but we don't give away any big spoilers.
I think that is a good compromise.
All right. So The Walking Dead Season 2, Episode 8, Nebraska in general. What'd you think?
Oh, it was great to be back with the main show. It was so funny seeing Andrew Lincoln 14 years younger.
Oh, no.
Neither is bad. Spoiler, he looks great in The Ones Who Live as well, but it was just really funny. I just really noticed it this time. I was like, oh, he's like a young guy here. So it was nice to be back with
I look back
the
at pictures of
originals.
myself when I started the podcast, and it's the same thing.
It's wild, isn't it? You're like, oh shit, yeah, it's Andrew Lincoln, but different. I enjoyed it. I really did. It's hard not to just spill into watching the next few episodes. So I'm doing a little bit of this and that, which I'm probably not the best form, but it is a good place to restart the rewatch. I think it's a nice kind of point to pick up the conversation.
Yeah, I was looking at it that because of The Ones Who Live, we took a 3-month break in between episodes 7 and 8. And that's pretty much exactly what they did back when it originally aired. 7 was in November, 8 was in February. So it's kind of the same thing. And I love how, a lot of shows after a break like that, they'll say previously, even Walking Dead has done that later, previously on The Walking Dead. This one, they just show you're looking down the barrel of Rick's gun and he lowers it and you're like, oh yeah, I know exactly what just happened. And then you see Sophia's body, just really economical. Like you're brought right back to where we left off.
You'd probably know the answer to this. Did they shoot it all as a one? They didn't have a break in the shooting?
I don't know the answer. I don't remember.
No?
I just assumed, you know what? They probably, I don't know.
There wasn't any obvious, because sometimes you can tell when there's been a break. Like someone has a slightly different haircut or wig.
Suddenly, or
yeah, Carl's like 34 and you're like, oh, I feel like some time might have passed. It looked to me like they had just gone right through, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't know, because there may be some behind the scenes stuff where they have to break between each show or each episode or something. I'm not sure, but yeah, it looked really seamless. For me, the scene with Dave and Tony at the end is what makes this episode stand out. It's always what I think of, the two guys in the bar. And other than that, I feel like it's fine, but it feels the things about, and I'm surprised because I always remember Nebraska as one of my favorites and I do like it. But what stands out to me watching it now is it's all of the things that I didn't like about season 2, which is that it's very soap opera-ish and repetitive. More of Rick fretting about his leadership, more of Shane complaining Rick is too soft and he's the one taking the action that needs to be taken to make the hard choices. More of Shane being defensive about that style and clashing with Dale. Another thing where Rick needs to go help someone and Lori objects. With things that we've seen over and over, and it's all sort of intensifying and getting more progressing, but slowly.
I feel this is the episode where Laurie's character takes a bit of a nosedive as well. I don't know. I feel like this is the point where it starts to be a bit like, what are your motivations here? What do you want? And why the hell do you need a map to drive to a town that's 5 seconds away down? Anyway, yeah.
I mean, I remember that scene, where she crashes the car being the thing that a lot of people are either like, oh, fucking Lori or fucking writers. Why do they make
Yeah.
Lori look so stupid? And so I had that in my head. And watching it now, I'm like, I could see like people text and drive. That's what it reminded me of. People
True.
texting and driving now, looking at the map and not expecting anything to be in the road because
True.
season 2 is also notorious for having no fucking zombies.
Yeah.
So
Laurie's not shocked. She's just shocked that there's a zombie.
Oh
and,
my
like
God,
no one told
we haven't
no
seen
one
one of
told
those
Sarah
in
Wayne
weeks.
Callies. She's like, what? We haven't had one of these in an episode for a long time.
So I didn't feel quite as critical of her as I thought I would, maybe of the writers still, but I'm like, it's not great, but it's not as bad. It's people have done way stupider things on the show, in my opinion.
I mean, that is not wrong. Both can be true. This can be
Yeah.
dumb, and also people kind of done stupid things as well.
Yeah.
Well, my first point was Laurie, just because I think coming out of The Ones Who Live, which is, as I don't think this is a spoiler, very focused on Rick and Michonne, it was kind of jarring to see Rick and Laurie back together.
Mhm.
Not back together, but you know what I mean, as a couple,
Yeah.
and see that dynamic. It felt very like 14 years had passed.
It's like I'll speak personally, I'm with somebody and I'm like, I've had a girlfriend. I remember I'm thinking of one in particular and I'm like, God, it just doesn't feel right, but it's got to be right. Like, why does it feel this way? I don't know. How do we make it work? And then you break up and it's hard. And then I get together with somebody else and I look back and I'm like, I never should have been with that person. It just wasn't right. It kind of feels like that.
It's cute though, because I'm like, Judith's cooking. I'm just like really psyched that Judith's in the show. Like, Judith's there. It was interesting to me that Laurie and Carl are still sitting by the barn, like almost in shock, while other people have moved away from it. And Carl talks to her about he thought he'd be the one to find Sophia, and I think that he would have shot her or something like that. I don't know. He says something that
he says
shocks
Rick did the right
Laurie.
thing, and I would have done the same thing.
He's not wrong, but it shocks Laurie, and I can see why it shocks her. Like, that is a shocking thing to hear your kids say.
Yes, and I remember at this point in the series, we were like, oh my God, Carl is growing up in this horrible world, and he's going to be this cold-blooded, ruthless kid. And they continued on with that. As we know, he shot that kid in season 3. But later on, he doesn't, in my opinion, he's a good-hearted kid. He's sensitive. He takes action when it needs to, but I don't feel like he's the psycho that we were afraid he was going to be. And he's actually the one, he writes that letter after he gets bitten, and it is one of the things that convinces Rick to take a softer line on things.
Yeah, and I think it's nice knowing that that's how it ends up, because there are moments where you're like, oh God. And Laurie brings it up later with Rick, where she's like, he's becoming hard, he's becoming affected by the world around him. And you see Laurie as well trying her best with Rick, trying to comfort him about Sophia and not knowing, and he's very unforgiving of himself. He's like, she was there the whole time, she still got bit, Carl got shot, I had people chasing a ghost in a forest.
Rick's saying all that stuff is more, he does a lot of fretting in this season about his decisions, and this is a little bit of a spoiler for The Ones Who Live, but they just amp that up to 1,000, and it really I admired it, because it's like, yeah, that's Rick. I remember him being like that early on in The Walking Dead, and now he's just totally disintegrated around
100%. Like the through line, I would expect nothing less from Andy Lincoln, who I think is such a good character actor, but the through line of Rick here and Rick and The Ones Who Live is really clear. Like it's not like they suddenly made him a different character. I'm like, no, this tracks. Laurie goes to summon Carol for the burial, and tries to talk about it being her little girl, and Carol's quite somber and says, it's not my little girl, Sophia's been dead a long time. And again, Laurie looks a bit taken aback by that. And then of course she sneaks out with her revolver, her jacket and her map for a 5-minute drive on a straight road, and shows that, well, once and for all, women are bad drivers. So, that settles that. I also enjoyed the scene very much with her and Daryl, where she kind of tries to get Daryl to basically run an errand for her. I kind of side with Daryl in that one. Like, I know he's hurting because of Sophia, and a lot of this episode, I think, is about Daryl not dealing with the fact that Sophia is gone and dead, and that they couldn't have saved her. But it's also the iconic olive oil line and referring to Rick as her bitch, which I just find so funny. I think I remember this being one of the scenes where I started to actively like Daryl as a character, and I was like, that's actually really funny. And there was a bit of me that is like, yeah, do it yourself, Laurie, but do it good. Oh wait, no, you've done it badly. Never mind. Oh well, guess you're in the ditch now. So here we are.
All right. Well, my first point is also it's Andrea and Laurie are doing mostly good things in this one. Is my point.
Oh, controversial. Let's do this.
Yeah, because Andrea and Laurie, I feel like they were more or less collected and effective, except for that one thing in this episode. Yeah. Andrea's feeling she's in the aftermath of what happened with the barn and killing all the family Zeds and everything. Everybody's distraught to different degrees. And I think Andrea and T-Dog and even Laurie are calmer about it with cooler heads and just and because of that, they're the ones sort of directing things. And like, first off, Beth is probably in the least good shape.
Oh
Beth
my God.
and Carol.
Beth is...
Yeah,
Beth's gone full like Taylor Swift breakup album in this, isn't she? Like, she's like, whoa.
And she's just a kid, and she's probably just had full faith in her father that they were going to bring her family back, So this is so traumatic, and then to have her go over to her mother and have her mother, attack her.
God, so
it's
good.
like compounding the trauma, and it's and she did so well, Emily Kinney, in this. I thought she was really good.
That was when she kind of stepped forward for the first time, I think.
And then stepped right back into a coma.
Yeah, and then briefly stepped into the light and then was in a coma for a while.
Retreated. So anyway, Andrea like attack or finish her off with this, I guess it's a scythe or that curved blade, just sticks it right through. Yeah, and after T-Dog had been stomping on her head, the zombies later get butter heads, and one stomp would have definitely done it, but they're not like that yet, I guess.
Yeah.
And then Andrea calls for a service before they start burying, and Laurie says to dig graves for Annette, Maggie and Beth's mother, and Sean, their brother or stepbrother, and Sophia. And then Jimmy, I think, asks, well, what about the rest? And that's a lot of digging. And Andrea says, we bury the ones we love and burn the rest. So she's just coming up with solutions right away. And that's really harsh, but it makes sense, And then Andrea helps dig the graves. Not Laurie, but Andrea does. She's always helping.
I'll say Laurie also remembers Annette and Sean's names, which I thought was nice.
Yeah.
And
she knows who's important. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Andrea helps put the bodies in the truck, and they did a good job making them feel heavy and unwieldy.
I have a little section called unintentional humor. I did laugh when she's running after the van with the arm that's fallen off. I don't know why I found that so funny, but I really did.
Well, I think that was intentional.
Yeah.
I think probably Nicotero was giggling at that. I would imagine they added that in the moment. Let's have an arm fall off. I don't know.
It's just so it's like very somber. And it's like, oh fuck, wait, no, oh I got it. Like
yeah. And it's just, I think the point of it is to show the grim reality that they need to get used to. And I wrote too, it's almost kind of funny, and also just to show that Andrea's rather chill about it. She doesn't mind riding in the back with all the corpses. So she's got a cool head about all this. Now, Laurie, when Dale's arguing with T-Dog and Andrea about whether Shane should have done what he did and they're just getting heated, and Laurie goes, there's no point in arguing about it, it's done. And I don't know, maybe there is a point, but she diffuses a heated situation and even put her hand on Dale's shoulder to say, it's okay, I still like you,
Yeah.
So that was good. Then Laurie, so there's a little bit of hypocrisy going on here with Laurie. She doesn't want Rick going out to help to find Herschel and risk his life because he has this son to raise, and that's more important. So then she's like, okay, he's out and I'm going to go too. You're his other parent. and leaving him with Andrea to watch over him. But on the other hand, she is trying to help, even if it means putting herself at risk. And I think there's something to be said for that.
It's also about getting Herschel back, isn't it?
Yeah. To help as Rick said, he can help with the baby. deliver the baby, and Beth's in trouble. And so, then the thing about her getting into the wreck, as I said, I wasn't quite as critical because I know that this kind of thing happens every day. It's not good. You should not text and drive. But she thought everyone was gone. So anyway, well, it's not great, but but there were a bunch of good things, little things. I thought they were some of the most capable aside from the car wreck.
Yeah, I found the ongoing relationship disagreement with her and Rick about him running off or heading off after something has happened. It pleased me that this comes up again with her saying, you want to have a conversation about this and this is not the time to head off. And Rick kind of saying we need him for the baby. He's maybe thinking more longer term at this point than Laurie is. But also it could just be one of Rick's kind of more fabricated reasons for wanting to get away from something.
Well, so this is that point again that you and I don't quite see eye to eye on, because I do agree that it might be more fabricated, because the first thing he says is, this is the least we can do for Herschel. And so he's thinking about that as the first reason, like, I want to help, right? And I just think that Rick feels responsibility for everyone. And that he, and Laurie, I tried to get into Laurie's head here, and I can totally see Laurie being like, dude, you have a son. Okay, maybe you feel guilty because you suggested this course of action and it led to something that's caused this blow up. But still, where's your priorities? Is it with your son or with these other people? Come on, I want a husband who I can trust that's going to be here to protect our son. And so I can understand that. But then she goes off too. So, okay, whatever.
Oh, Carl.
As far as Rick goes, though, I think I just still don't quite see it as him trying to avoid or get away from something as much as just feeling guilt and responsibility for everybody and feeling like he has to fix and help everything, not to get away from something, but to do something to help and fix and be the hero and take responsibility for everything. I do, though, in The Ones Who Live, think that I'm like, oh yeah, Lucy's right now. Like, I do feel like he's avoiding something there. But
14 years later, I am vindicated. I think both can be true. I think he can be running away from not wanting to sit in feelings because he feels guilty. Like, I think it's perfectly acceptable to be like, I feel a huge amount of guilt and discomfort about this. My way of dealing with it is to go and act and do something.
Yeah, I think that's what he's doing. Yeah, he's acting out of guilt and it's sort of this need to protect and take care of everything.
Yeah.
And it can be unhealthy if it's just a feeling that's so strong that you act without thinking it through, like, what is the best course of action to do here if you're just reacting to a feeling,
And Rick's a hothead. Like, a lot of the characters in The Walking Dead are hotheads, and I think he is very instinctively driven at that point. I have a point that's just about the aftermath of the barn, kind of the cold open. I thought I would go there because I think we'll move into stuff that happens later in the episode. So I thought they really capture the sense of like shock of what's happened, what everyone has seen, and we see Carol kind of wailing and Rick's face just being absolutely like broken. We see the first like Daryl saying "Don't look," which is repeated in later seasons when Carol finds Henry's head on the pike. Daryl's holding her back saying "Don't look," which I think is a nice call forward. One of the other points, I'll run 2 points together here, is I thought the use of silence in this episode was really good. I thought the silence, it wasn't quite a wordless cold open, especially not when we get into like the fighting near the porch of the farm. But the shocked silence was used really well, and people not saying an awful lot, but responding in other ways.
I'm not even sure if there was any music. I feel like not.
No. And Beth being attacked is incredible. That shot of Andrea scything her mum through the head is just unreal.
It's badass, but also tragic.
I hated Shane yelling at Herschel. I was like, this is Shane at almost his worst at this point. I was like, there's no need for this. But I fucking loved Maggie giving back what she gets and slapping Shane, saying, haven't you done enough? And Herschel saying, I mean it, off my land.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That was a good dramatic moment. If I had any criticism about that, it's that, okay, you just, as far, you know that they think that their family could have been cured and you just massacred them and now you're yelling at them. That seems like maybe forced drama, to amp. But then again, Shane is a hothead, and when he's on fire like that, there's no talking to him. But it was the worst thing he could have said.
Awful. And he's just trying to justify his shitty action, which, although right, was done in a shitty way.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. Like, maybe you ultimately wanted to get to that, but not in a way that just, like, you set a bomb off.
No, awful. And Rick sticks up for Herschel, and Shane says, Rick, you're just as delusional as that guy, which I don't think is fair. I don't think that's quite right, to be honest.
Nah, he's just popping off.
Yeah, and of course we see later Herschel with his wife's things, his hip flask appears, and what I thought was really powerful about that is we don't see the service, it's silent, and everyone scatters after that point, and there's this shot of everyone just moving away that's just really lovely.
I think they didn't show the service because, I don't know, this is just speculation, but maybe it would have been a little bit comforting, and that's not what they're going for right now. It's not meant to be comfortable at all. When everybody walked their separate ways, I felt like, what is this, synchronized swimming? This is weird.
No, I was like, aren't you all just going to the house?
Like, you don't like each other anymore? Like, what?
Yeah, I know. I was like, it's very beautiful, but maybe it doesn't make sense. The other excellent use of silence, I thought, was Shane going off at Dale. That scene where Jeffrey DeMunn doesn't say anything. And Shane just gets out of the car and goes off and is just like, next time I need a radiator hose, I'll give you a call, man. You the moral authority here. And literally it's just JDM's amazing eyebrows and eyes and Shane just losing it. Which I think in a way is comforting because it shows that Shane does still have some morality there, that Dale can get under his skin that way without even saying a word, of knowing that he has done something that is pretty reprehensible. But I just thought it was a really powerful decision to have Dale just not say anything, just look at him like,
Well, I mean, the look on his face is as if he had said, "You're a bad man."
Yeah, you are a bad dude.
I hate you. But more than anyone I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, just you're disgusting.
Yeah. But like Shane arguing with him, and then maybe you're already going to bring this up, but then, acting like he's trying to comfort Carol, but really he's trying to get some validation from her that what he did was okay.
Oh, interesting. Is that how you read that scene? Ooh.
Yeah, because he's like, oh, Carol, are you okay? Let me wash your... I didn't mean to do anything, and I'm just trying to keep everybody safe, but everybody thinks he's making it all about himself.
That's true. That's really interesting, because I thought that scene was super...
sweet.
Yeah, well, not sweet. I just thought it was a very interesting... I always think when someone is washing someone else in that way, always makes me think of like biblical references and like very profound things. And part of me was like, oh, this shows that Shane still has some humanity.
I think there's some of that in there too.
But I think there is some sort of Shakespearean stuff like what you're saying there about him trying to get Carol to validate what he did as well, because Carol's, I think he does feel bad about it when it's Carol. I don't think he feels bad about Herschel's family at all. I mean, he didn't know them.
He and also he's like, I didn't know she was in there, but also just a few minutes ago he was yelling at Rick, I wanted to call this search off a long time ago, and now he's telling the girl's mother, oh, I'm so sorry about what happened. But I just think throughout this whole thing, Shane is upset and trying to assert that he did the right thing, and it's clearly from a reactive place because he's so just wired, right? And I don't know if that's in part because he deep down feels guilty and doubtful that he's doing the right thing, but I don't think so. I think it's more that he's convinced he is right, but he can see that no one else buys into it, and so he's worried about being ostracized, and he wants to make sure that they know that he's right,
I think the people that he cares about thinking he's right, because Andrea clearly thinks he's right, but I don't think he's valuing Andrea's opinion that much. I think he's like, but Laurie doesn't think it, and
that's the thing. Sometimes we go after the people who don't we take for granted the people who are on our side, and we don't treat them as well, and then we chase after the ones who aren't, with it.
Yeah, Andrew. I don't know. Andrew is so. I don't know. I'm a bit like, girl, this guy doesn't like you. He's having a baby with Laurie. Don't be. She's like, I shot too. Shane. I'm like, Andrea, calm down, love.
You'll meet somebody else later. The governor. He's great.
Yeah. And of course, the reason Carol's arms need washed is because she's been ripping up Cherokee roses and getting stung by plants and things, which is so sad. Poor Carol.
It is. And I noticed, so I think there's a theme of hope in this episode, giving up hope, losing hope. And Herschel mentioned that somebody mentioned that Herschel stopped drinking when Maggie was born. And I think that was like, okay, this child means I have to get my act together, that I need to secure a future for my family, so I got to be a good upstanding man. And when he looks at the flask and it clearly he's like, I'm going to the bar, it's like, I've given all that up, right? I've given up hope. And then the very next scene is Carol thrashing away at the Cherokee rose, which also symbolized hope, so it's just two scenes in a row of we've given up, like it's hopeless.
I know. I think there's another powerful use of silence in the RV when Carol's just sitting there and Daryl comes in and they don't say anything to one another. And Daryl's hurting a lot in this episode. Your turn, I think.
Okay. So fretting and self-doubt, lots of people being down on themselves in this one. Rick fretting over the results of his decision-making again. Like you mentioned, he tried to protect Sophia, but she still got bit, and Carl got shot and had everyone chasing a ghost in a forest. And I'm like, well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, the only thing I feel super critical of him for was leaving Sophia alone, really. The other things, it's just hard. It's no clear right thing to do. But when he left Sophia alone, I'm like, no, just to have her run with you. And later, Rick would have just knifed those Zeds, but they weren't good at that yet.
They weren't getting as close up to them either.
But I think as a leader, you understand that you do the best you can, and sometimes things don't go right, and you learn and you move on. Even when the stakes are high, if you're a good leader, you won't torture yourself over it. And then later when Glenn apologizes for not telling Rick that Laurie was pregnant, and he says, I'm sorry I kept it from you. And Rick says, don't be. You did what you thought was right. Just so happens it wasn't. And I'm like, yeah, that's the advice that you should be taking yourself. Don't be sorry. Just... Yeah. I also don't know that Glenn was wrong. I don't know. I found that quite harsh from Rick. I was like, I don't know that what Glenn did was wrong. I'm just like, he kept debatable. Confidence. But I could see Rick from his point of view. Like, I kind of like that he just went full. I
don't think Rick said it in a way to guilt Glenn. I think he said it very factually. But I'm like, if someone said that to me, I would be gutted. I'd be like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I just, my heart breaks every time we see these scenes with Glenn because he's so decent. He's such a decent person. And I'm just like, why, honey? Anyway.
And he's in a place where he doesn't know his own worth. I think that's what his character's about right now. He asks Maggie if she knew Sophia was in the barn, and Maggie doesn't even dignify it with a response, and I don't blame her for being mad at that, because to me, Maggie is like, we're connected, we're together now, and we're tight, aren't we? You shouldn't have to ask that, but the fact that you did makes me wonder what you think we are. And
they are so on different pages in that scene, aren't they? Like, it's terrible.
And then he starts talking about his group can move on now, and she's like, what the fuck? And I don't think it's that he doesn't want to be with her. I think it's that he doesn't believe she'd want him.
Yeah.
And Maggie asks him if he'd stay, and he starts to say he'd want to, but then Beth collapses, so they can't finish the conversation.
Fucking Beth.
And then he's telling Rick, Maggie told me she loved me, but she couldn't have meant it, and she must have been upset or confused. And Rick is great here. He's great at giving Glenn advice.
Yeah, I couldn't decide if it was father, son, or brothers. I was like, there's such a lovely scene with them in the car. I love their relationship. I will say, I was worried about how Glenn was holding the gun. Didn't we all learn from Pulp Fiction, which Pulp Fiction should exist in this universe, that shouldn't be how you hold a gun?
I think it's off to the side, but in that camera angle, it looks like it's pointed right at his head, so it's hard to
still
listen
risky.
to what he's saying. It is.
I'm like, Glenn.
But yeah, I think we might have mentioned that when I podcasted about this.
And gun safety Rick Grimes is like, yeah, this is fine. I see no issue
totally
with that.
fine.
I'm like,
but so Rick says, I think she's smart enough to know what she's feeling. Glenn says she wants to be in love, so she's needing something to like hold on to. Glenn, and he goes, Glenn, it's pretty obvious to everyone Maggie loves you, and not just because you're one of the last men standing. So what's the problem?
so cute.
Well, I didn't say it back. I've never had the woman say that to me before, except my mom and my sisters.
Glenn had sisters. I love that bit of fact as well.
I don't think that
"Aw."
ever gets mentioned again. I don't think.
No. The Ree family, we get a little bit of... I can see Glenn as being a guy who's grown up around sisters, actually. He's very... I don't know. Yeah, he's very understanding and not afraid of going on a tampon run.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And I think Rick... I just love Rick here. He's just like, it's a good thing. We don't get enough of that these days. Enjoy it. You can say it to her when you get back. She's not going anywhere. And, Glenn's like, well, she doesn't even know me. How could she know? And I don't think Rick is like, oh, she knows enough to know and it's solid, as much as just give it a shot. I mean, it seems pretty good so far.
Rick's like, and if you're lucky, she won't sleep with your best friend and have his baby. So like,
and I think, it feels like, yeah, it could be father, but maybe more an older brother, where you've gone through, you've had girlfriends and you just know, when you have your first one, every little thing is like, what is going on? Why? What? Yeah. What do I do? And after a while, it's like, okay. Roll with the bumps and things.
It's something, I'm sure I've said this on the podcast before, but I think the comics do a slightly better job of exploring Rick's guilt about Glenn after Glenn dies. I think in the show, they really focus on Maggie's loss, and that's fair. Like, I understand that. But in the comics, I remember coming away with the sense that the loss of Glenn was really seismic for Rick as well, because of him being the person who he owed his life to and like the decent person. And I think they did touch on it in the show, and maybe when we come to rewatch it, I'll be like, oh no, they really did do a good job of that. But this scene made me remember that their relationship is very textured and very rich. Oh, the worst bit of the rewatch is seeing Glenn. I'm just like, oh, every time.
That's funny. Are you watching Invincible?
Yes, I'm a few episodes behind, but I love it.
Mm-hmm. And this is Amazon animated series based on Robert Kirkman's other comic series that was running alongside The Walking Dead, and it's really good. And Kirkman has said that he would like to do an animated version of The Walking Dead that hews closely to the comic. Yeah. And I think probably that's because of his experience with Invincible. And when I first heard that, I was like, oh, we've already had enough Walking Dead. But I'm like, oh no, Invincible's great. Yeah, this would be great. And he said he doesn't want to do it unless he can get the rights back from AMC. So I
oh my God, that'll be a century in the future, no?
Yeah, I don't know how that works. Like, I think if you don't do something with it for a certain amount of time, the rights revert back. I'm not sure. Maybe not. But anyway, it would be cool, and I presume he wants to have full control over it. Like, he wouldn't do it unless he could have full control, so he could make it exactly the way he wanted. But that would be pretty cool. That would be pretty cool.
I always really liked as well that Stephen Yeun went back and did Invincible, because I was worried for a while that he was like very over The Walking Dead, and I think he is. But it's nice to me that he has that relationship with Kirkman, that he was going to take that role, because he's so good. It's such a great show.
Yeah, and they made the character Mark Grayson is I think he's just a Caucasian kid in the comics, but they made him half Asian.
And Sandra Oh is his mom.
Yeah.
Which is so fun.
It's good.
I did notice as well that Rick puts a good word in for Glenn with Herschel, when Herschel's like, are you alone? Who's with you? And he's like, it's Glenn. And it's like, did Maggie make him come? And Rick's like, no, he volunteered. He's good like that. I'm like, that's Big Brother energy. I like that. It's like, no, he's a good kid.
He's also like covering for Maggie, who actually did not want Glenn to go.
Yeah.
So more fretting. Daryl, I think, I guess I can understand how he is, but it made me think, future Daryl, if it was like, oh, we need to go get some help for Beth, he would have been on it, because him and Beth had this connection, but they don't now. And he's in his phase where he's like, he's been experimenting with being more involved in a group, and it just didn't work out. And he's like, fuck it.
It's just backfired fucking horribly, hasn't it? The first thing he's cared about in however knows what long, and it's like, nope, that didn't work. Awful.
And then Herschel says Beth needs to mourn her mother and should have done that weeks ago, but he robbed her of that. He says, I was a fool. My daughters deserve better than that. And I'm like, well, then put down the drink and go help your daughter. You jerk.
I know. I know. But isn't Scott Wilson so good in this scene? Yeah. I remember this was when I started seeing Herschel as more than just a pious man. I was like, oh, this is actually quite... He's more complicated. Yeah, this is really good. He's very good in this episode.
Yeah, and even in that moment, like, I can understand where you're like, I fucked up, because it is interesting. He realizes he was wrong. There's no cure. Yeah. They're undead. And you shot, Shane, I guess, was shooting Annette, and she just kept coming. And so he's like, I was a fool.
Yeah, I was a fool, Rick, and you people saw that. Like,
And so he's so down on himself that even when he's down on himself about not being there for his daughters in the way he should have, now he could be, but I understand that feeling where you're just like, I'm despicable. Like I can't, I'm not the kind of person who does that. And you have to like, no, snap out of it. Come on.
Yeah.
Which he does.
I liked seeing him and Rick's power dynamic shift a bit, and Rick being actually angry with Herschel at certain points as well. I was like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah. Well, what did he say? He goes, you need to be there for your daughters. And he goes, oh, like you were for that little girl. And I'm like, dude. Asshole.
Arsehole. Like, awful.
To be more like forceful.
This is father-son stuff. Like, Rick and Herschel is proper, there's father-son shit going on here. I'm like,
But Rick could have, if he was a lesser man, could have been like, all right, fuck you, dude. We're out of here. Let's go, Glenn.
Yeah.
But no, he
Shane.
Was angered. Yeah, but he used it to, progress the situation.
Yeah. He talks about cleaning up after you, and then sort of death has always been there. And that's the kind of get over yourself talk of like, yeah, this is shit, but we got to live with it. And I know the two of them, oh my God, so good together. So good. Very and Glenn, good. I just love, Glenn is quite gormless in this whole thing, but it really works for his character and for where he's at. And he goes on to kind of reflect on it in later episodes about like, I didn't act, I was a bit naive and things like that. And I think having the three of them is such a good dynamic here.
Gormless, just like kind of an observer who doesn't really know what to do. Is that what that means?
A little bit, and like naive with the guys. Like I think he let slip that there's a farm, and he's more trusting. Did he say it?
Because I watched it 3 times and I didn't see him.
But it seems like they act like he does, and it's very confusing.
Because they're like, because I even read that Glenn said it, but I couldn't find it. Listeners, let me know.
Yeah.
But I think what happened actually is they said they just put it out there, and because no one denied it, they presumed it.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
But you can see Glenn is definitely more willing to trust these guys. Yeah. And yeah, I just think it's like the 3 stages of jaded. Like Rick's very jaded, Herschel's becoming jaded, and Glenn's just not quite jaded yet. And I just love that. The 3 of them as a trio. It's really good.
And Glenn, I would say he never gets super jaded. I mean, I think the thing with the Saviors really advanced him a couple of notches, but he never got, I mean, that's sort of the tragedy. He didn't live long enough to get as jaded as some of the other people did.
And his kid's a little dick. No, I'm joking. He's not he's not my favorite. He's cute, but he's not my favorite.
Yeah. And last, Shane, as far as fretting, I guess I already talked about it, but he's just really in a tizzy about people not being on his side, and he's reacting to that. I'm the right, I'm good, I'm the best.
I did it, I'm awesome. And it's like, no, you're not. I had a list of good character moments as well. We've covered most of them. One small touch that I really liked is Rick and Shane. We briefly delve into a procedural when they're in Herschel's room, and Rick and Shane are like, so where was he last seen? What clues do we have? And I'm like, oh yeah, they're in cop mode. I quite like that. Yeah. Dale plants the idea about Otis to Laurie, which is a huge thing. For her, like, this is her really, Shane's not a killer. Like, she still believes that he's a good person. And the idea that Dale is kind of on the sideline there planting that idea and putting that seed of doubt in her head is really explosive.
And he said exactly what happened. I think he killed Otis sacrificed Otis to save himself. But there's some like gray area-ness there, in my opinion, because I think if he hadn't done that, they both would have died and Carl would have also died. But that doesn't mean that Shane is good in all cases.
And in Dale's morality, it's bad. Like for Dale, that's still, killing a guy.
Right. Or maybe you're probably right. Maybe if Dale knew the exact circumstances, you could get him to soften on it a little bit. But he's
never going to have that with Shane, is he?
Does. Yeah.
He's looking for reasons to hate Shane.
Yeah.
Thankfully, he doesn't have to look far.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a bunch. And yeah, that was kind of the end of my character moments. I guess I've got unintentional humor. Not much to say other than Herschel saying he just quit drinking really made me laugh. He's like, I just quit. And then like 5 minutes later saying he could use a drink also really made me laugh. I'm quite fond of drunk Herschel. I'd forgotten that Tony pees in the bar and he lands in his own pee at the end, which did make me laugh.
Herschel, by the way, I think Scott Wilson, I hope it's okay to say this, he was fond of whiskey, and I'm pretty sure Leanne, who worked with Walker Stalker, would, every time Scott Wilson was one of the Walker Stalker guests, would give him a bottle of whiskey as a gift at the beginning.
I think if Scott Wilson is not sitting wherever he is in the afterlife with like a really good scotch or bourbon like on a porch,
I love that.
I don't want to be in the world. I think that's where he needs to be. Also, as I've said, Laurie and Daryl's interaction, I'd forgotten that Laurie opens with moving to the suburbs because Daryl's so far away from the farm. But yeah, your bitch went window shopping and olive oil really made me laugh. So yeah, those moments really cracked me up.
I always wonder what actors think when there's a line delivered like that that's clearly based on their personal appearance,
But she so looks like Olive.
I know.
It's so distracting. It's like, oh yeah, she is kind of lanky.
They just had her start going, oh.
I know. Rick ripping open tins of spinach. I'd watch it. All I have left really is the barn. The bar from the barn.
Let me do one of my points and then we'll go to that, okay?
Nah, I don't want to.
You don't want to do it?
No, you're not allowed. You're done.
Okay,
you're barred. No, go for it.
Because it's losing hope. And so just the aftermath of Sophia having been in the fucking barn and Herschel's zombie family's dead. And so this is a bleak episode. Everyone is losing hope right in the aftermath, especially Carol and Beth. Carol had hope for Sophia. That's gone. Beth had hope for her mother could be saved. Gone. And then, there's the double trauma of her zombie mother grabbing at her. A little Department of Suspension of Disbelief. Why would her zombie mom just be laying there quiet if she hadn't already been shot in the brain? But whatever.
Department of Suspension of Disbelief.
Then Beth is catatonic, and later we know she wants to kill herself. So that's really bleak, and the show really set up this typical thing of there's a problem, but they're working to solve it. Sophia went missing, and even the whole thing with Daryl, the whole Cherokee Rose episode, like how could they not find her after that? And so setting that up and then just having her come out of that barn, it really was like, nope, that's not The Walking Dead. This show, we're going to put our characters through the ringer, and then it's just going to keep amping it up and up and up and see what that does to their character. And this really sort of accentuated that.
Oh my God. Iconic.
And it really sets up the arc of the series of how do you respond to this super harsh situation, and it really, I thought, came to a great conclusion in The Ones Who Live, which if you want to hear why, watch the show, go back and listen to us talk about it. But it really was about how to respond to this kind of adversity. And we see, even just within The Walking Dead, Rick gets so jaded, as you mentioned a minute ago, and get really calloused over to the point where he doesn't care about the lives of anyone except his people closest to him. And then he turns around and even the logo I noticed of The Walking Dead, every year it would get more and more like, what do you call it when it's something's decaying?
Tarnished.
Decaying,
decayed, yep.
And then when Angela Kang came in, that shifted to growth. And
Yeah.
so I feel like that's what the whole series is loss of hope steadily until people started to bring it back and make a place where you could have a life. And the whole thing about, Herschel saying there's no hope and you know it now like I do. But he was holding on to hope that he could save his loved ones that had turned. Now there's no hope for that, but there's still hope that they can survive, and even beyond survival, make a life. And like you said, Rick said, nothing's changed. Death is death. It's always been that, whether from a heart attack, cancer, or walker, what's the difference? What Rick doesn't realize is how much more adversity there's going to be that he's going to have to get over. But that is still the challenge to and it's, I think one of the hardest things in life is when you have something at a certain level and then you lose it, you drop down. It's almost easier to live with if you're just already at a lower point and that's your baseline. Like people who are in lesser developed countries can be happier. But if you are like a stockbroker and you lose all your money, you jump out a window, it's like, or even just the way the world is now, like we feel like the world is declining in some ways. And so it can cause us to lose hope. But the challenge is to just take stock of where you are and figure out how to make the best of that. That's me on a soapbox today. But that's, I think, also kind of what the series is about.
I think it's interesting as well because Peter asked me at the end of this episode, he's like, is this the first time that we see essentially evil raiders? Is this the first time that we see people who are not willing to help?
I think
or ultimately good? And it's interesting that comes at this juncture. Well,
Merle
Vatos,
kind of, but yeah.
I mean, Merle, yeah.
No,
but in terms of an outside group with ill intentions who are there to harm our group, this is the start of that getting introduced. And I think there is a shift in the show at this point towards the threat is outside now. It's outside. It's not just the walkers. It's what the people will do.
And that's one reason why it really stood out. That scene within the episode, but within the series so far. Absolutely.
Well, my final point is, son of a bitch, you're alive. Let's talk about it. Let's get into the scene. Dave and Tony, the scrawny looking douchebag. These guys, they read so, I'd forgotten how kind of like, oh, forget about it, like urban city people they are. Like it was, part of me was like, is this too much or is it just enough? I don't know. I think the guy that plays Dave in particular is really good in this scene. The way that he goes from, if it had been just Dave, they might have had a fighting chance. I think Tony really fucked it for them. I think Tony pissing in the bloody bar and being a bit drunk and not really controlling the extent of the kind of people they actually were really fucked them. Dave does a lot of amazing kind of scoping things out, sussing out what's actually happening. He knows to do the platitudes, he knows how to be warm and a little bit charming, but he's also trying to figure out what was happening. But he gets a bit too thirsty, doesn't he, at the end? Like he gets a bit too eager.
Asking too many questions. Yeah, before ingratiating himself. And I think maybe when he said, like, he